As a means of maintaining white social dominance over black people, white oppressive forces secretly deploys hidden social science tactics against black people. Social science is the branch of science devoted to the study of societies and the relationships of individuals within a society. The term was formerly used to refer to the field of sociology, the original science of society, established in the 19th century. The white society has transformed their studies of social science into their greatest weapon used for controlling and subjugating black people. In order for black people to truly liberate ourselves, we must elevate our thinking above a biblical fairy tale and a silly slave syndrome myth, and learn instead of the true nefarious social sciences that white oppressive forces secretly deploys to facilitate their long-term oppression of us. People are inherently tribal and do not normally nor naturally accept the long-term dominance of other racial groups over their lives. That's not how people are made. People must be manipulated to do so. The white society begins instilling a value system into the subconscious minds of black people that makes us more compliant with white dominance over our lives during our school years. During the educational development of black children, from a time that their minds are young and most impressionable, they're being socialized to perceive themselves as being inherently inferior to whites and to be more compliant with white dominance over their lives. Education is much more than a matter of developing students' cognitive abilities in math, language, and science. It is the process of imparting information, knowledge, and values which best enables students to realize their highest potential. Studies shows that how children behave is greatly influenced by what they're taught to believe about themselves. Therefore, it is extremely important that children be taught of the many contributions made by their particular group. Students can then reference these messages about their particular group to acquire their self-images and assess their potential and capabilities in relation to these information. Therefore, an education setting that properly nurtures the aspiration and potential of a child is one that includes the many contributions made by the child's particular race or group. This is a basic human need, and it is a basis that children use as a point of reference for their potential. It is particularly important for children living under difficult circumstances to know about and be able to identify with members of their group who helps them to feel good about being members of the same group. This is a basic human need, and it's being deliberately withheld from black students during their education development. White governed schools do not provide a racially affirming curriculum to black students as it does so for white students. They instead intentionally gives black students a marginalized version of their history. It is a classroom setting in which the majority of the achievements and contributions made by black people throughout history are systematically and deliberately withheld from the educational development of black students. Black students are instead taught from a curriculum that primarily exalts white history and white achievements, while marginalizes their own achievement in history. For many black people, their schools are the first places where we experience the implication that there's something inherently wrong with being black. Case, point, and proof. Right now, at this very moment, black children in the U.S. are taught that their history starts with slavery, because before Africa was invaded, Africa was uncivilized and illiterate, and therefore has no history that predates the white side's invasion of Africa. This is extremely damaging to a child's psyche, and it's deliberately designed to instill the myth of white superiority and black inferiority into the subconscious minds of black children. But it's totally untrue. The truth of the fact is the exact opposite. Africans are the first to build in stone, to smelt metal. Africans invented the wheel, paper, the calendar, the concept of 24 hours in a day, the world's oldest university, library, manuscript, encyclopedia, human prosthetic, mathematical tool, medical journals, and the world's largest wall is found in Africa. It is the Great Wall of China is not the world's largest wall. The largest wall ever built was the Great Wall of Benin. It's 4 times larger than the Great Wall of China, and it's even recognized by the Guinness World Record. And long before Caucasians invaded Africa, it was Africans that civilized Europeans. Africans introduced science, writing, math, and philosophy to Europe. Greece's first scholars openly admitted that they were educated by Africans. Africans also introduced hygienic practices such as shaving, the use of toothpaste, deodorant, perfume, and even the daily bath to Europeans. But black students are not taught this in school. Black students are also miseducated to perceive their racial group as having invented much throughout history. Every school year in America, millions of black children graduate believing that the only thing invented by a black person is peanut butter. I know this to be true because I visit many schools and talk with many students, and I've reviewed many textbooks. Moreover, my ex-wife was a school teacher for over 20 years. Those black students who knew of the many inventions by black people, they didn't learn it from their schools because their schools don't teach it. The only invention officially recognized within most white schools is that as being peanut butter by George Washington Carver. That's it. However, the hidden reality is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustices of white racism and slavery, most inventions that revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by a black person or were inspired by an early invention by a black person. Now, I know that for some of you, that last statement might be a hard pill to swallow, given how negatively black people are depicted within the white society. We are constantly portrayed as being the black leeches of society that benefits from the great minds of white people. But this is merely an elaborate white deception created by false information that are repetitively fed into the white society. The hidden fact of the matter is that without black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phones, no emails, no GPS, no motorized vehicles, no helicopters, no traffic lights, no 3D movies, no working light bulbs, no elevators, therefore no skyscrapers, no home security surveillance system, no home game cartridges, no air conditioning, no central heating, no refrigerator, no refrigerated trucks, no washing machine, no dryers, no lawnmowers, no blood bank. We wouldn't even have the accurate weather forecasting system. We wouldn't have fiber optic digital technology. We wouldn't have the lawnmower, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, all of these black racially affirming facts are being deliberately withheld from black students during their entire educational development. That's a social science. The white educational system's failure to adequately provide black students with a racially affirming curriculum, as it routinely does so for white students, is actually essential for maintaining white dominance. Because for a ruling class to maintain its position of social dominance over its oppressed population, they must condition the oppressed from a very early age to accept their own subordinate status and to adhere to the authority of the dominant society. To do so, the education given to the oppressed from the time that their minds are young and most impressionable must be the type that denies them of racially affirming facts about themselves. When the oppressed population are denied of racially affirming facts about themselves during their education and development, this conditions them to accept their subordinate status within a society dominated by their oppressors. This immoral practice is precisely what's being done to black students. Black students are subjected to a black racially devaluing education that conceals most of our contributions from them. And consequently, black students must constantly resist the negative perception of being black implicit in an educational curriculum that's almost exclusively dedicated to white ideologies, white achievements, white contributions, and white history. Furthermore, black students are subjected to this demoralizing miseducation for 7 hours a day from the age of 5 through 18. Clearly, considerable damages can be done to the self-esteem of many black students within such a large time frame. When students are denied of an education that makes them feel good about being part of who they are, their racial group, even the brightest among them may have little of any hope of mentally extracting themselves from their feeling of inferiority. Dr. Carter G. Woodson wrote of this same fact in 1933 in his book entitled The Miseducation of the Negro. He said, if you make a man think that he is justly an outcast, you do not have to order him to the back door. He will go without being told. And if there is no back door, his very nature will demand one. Our core problem is that most black people are totally clueless of how the white society exploits their monopoly over information that we receive to manipulate our beliefs in ways that's against our own interests, in ways that serve the system of white supremacy. Although all white governments publicly profess equality, they are unrelentingly committed to the preservation of their white dominance. The white society exploitation of Africa has provided it with an era in which it has flourished most throughout history. Moreover, the white society's dependence upon Africa's natural resources is indefinite. To allow this era to end would be directly against the interests of the white society. Therefore, when the blatant subjugation tactics used in the past against black people became no longer socially acceptable with the changing times and resulted with an unprecedented unified black protest, the white society did not abandon its subjugation tactics. They merely evolved them with much more sophistication. They developed methods that are not easily recognized by the black victims by using social sciences. They deploy social sciences that shapes our minds in ways that serves the white society. Brothers and sisters, it allows them to continue to subjugate black people without resistance. This is what we call the black people's matrix. It is the reality that most people don't understand. So when I see my people walk around stage, Willie Lynch Schmidt, Jesus is going to save us. The profound ignorance, it blows my mind. I love my people, and me telling the truth endangers my life. But our people must learn the truth. We must elevate our minds above a biblical fairy tale and a silly slave syndrome and recognize that there are social sciences. Now, often when I tell you about different things, there's an overlapping. Yes, there's overlapping because I'm always talking at its core about how the white society maintains their dominance and how they deploy different social science for manipulating our minds. So if I'm talking about the media manipulation, I'll go back to their objective is to maintain their dominance. If we're talking what's happening in our school, it goes back to their objective to maintain their dominance. So I know something sounds redundant in some ways. Okay? So not every video I make is for you if you've heard this content. It's for the other person who haven't heard it. But I ask you to please continue to share it. I was trained in propaganda in the military. And it teaches you the only way to fight propaganda is with counter propaganda. So we have to go against the white man's fraudulent propaganda. We have to create our own counter propaganda. And our counter propaganda must be repeated and shared unrelentingly in the same way the white man's fraudulent propaganda is repeatedly spread. That's how you do it. And that's why you see me keep putting out the videos. And some may say some things are similar, but you fight propaganda with counter propaganda. And the counter propaganda must be spread just as rapidly and unrelentingly as the white man's lies. Our truth must be pushed repeatedly also. That's what's happening. One love and peace, brothers and sisters. One love and peace.